The latest sequel to The Conjuring is here again. In The Devil Made Me Do It, paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren get involved in the darkest case they've ever had handle. They are trying to help Ann Johnson, who is being charged to commit murder. Set in 1981, the small town of Brookfield in Connecticut, USA, is shocked the murder of Bruno Souls. The dog groomer owner was found dead as a result of repeated knife stabs. The killer, Ann, was found walking in a semi-dazed state with his hands blood-stained. Ann's case at that time made a scene and attracted the attention of the press. Not only because his murder was so sadistic, but also when it entered the process court, Ann pleaded not guilty. The reason is because while doing murder, he claimed to be under the control of the devil. It's for the first time such defenses are used in courtrooms. Since it was first released in 2013, The Conjuring and various stories in the universe turned into one of the most successful horror film franchises commercially. The duo of producer Peter Safran and director James Wan is successful concocting true stories inspired by cases handled by Ed and Lorraine Warren, who is packed with cinematographic expertise so that it becomes a spectacle which is very entertaining. Wan's name is a guarantee of the quality of the resulting film. Not only The Conjuring, but also follow-up stories such as Annabelle and The Nun. This third sequel to The Conjuring is also no exception, even though Wan is no longer sitting on the director's bench. Michael Chavez, who previously successfully worked on The Curse of La Llorona, is believed to be the director, while Wan and Safran act as producer. A number of things that became the strength of the previous sequels of The Conjuring still can be found in the latest release. Powerful and flowing story, taking images that really spoil the visual experience, to the sound system that is very support. As mentioned, the story in The Devil Made Me Do It is inspired by true events which caused a stir in the US judiciary. The premise was quite intriguing. The story that James Wan and David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick worked on meticulously provides background on the meeting of Ann and the Warrens, as well as the incident that happened supposedly made him possessed by the devil. For those who don't know the end of this story, of course the question is whether defense on the pretext that a criminal act was committed because of demons are acceptable. However, this film does not focus on legal precedent. The adventures of Ed and Lorraine actually lead them to the cause of undoing what he did. And of the various cases handled by the Warrens, this Ann case is called as the darkest. From the background of the story to the occurrence of the assassination by Ann was solidly intertwined. However, the development of the story, which is the choice of the story maker, instead seems long-winded and lost its exciting potential. Obviously, James Wan with director Michael Chavez and David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick as screenwriters presents a story with a different pattern from the previous one. The novelty wasn't bad, it just felt different, but it wasn't awesome either. To put it simply, The Conjuring 3 is more like a crime thriller with the horror universe flavor that the two previous films have known. In other words, this film is more rational than the first and second saga. This is different from The Conjuring 1 and 2, which were more focused on all the supernatural horrors in a house, which sometimes cannot be explained logically but can make the audience scream. The concoction is not widely displayed. Indeed, in the end, narrative patterns such as the Amityville folklore adaptation are still the mainstay, but most of these films are set in many locations and do not make the haunted house the main dish. Meanwhile, the investigative narrative style that has been presented since the first and second saga now feels thicker. The jump scare seasoning for this film is even more subtle when compared to Valak's terror in The Conjuring 2. In fact, the demonic power narrated in this film is actually stronger than Valak or even Bathsheba, who haunts the first film. It looks like the creators deliberately refrained from exposing the full extent of the horrors of The Conjuring 3 and just toyed with a new style of crime story, crisper jokes, and darker occultism. But is this movie bad? Well, not at all. In fact, this film has a thorough preparation, starting from the story, set, visual effects, to the actions of the cast. However, the longing to leave the cinema in the form of shock due to being chased by the demons of the Conjuring universe did not happen this time. Well, there are still things that may disappoint the audience who expects the appearance of many ghosts. The third edition seems to lack a scary figure compared to the first and second iterations. Likewise with the appearance of astral beings, which are relatively not as scary as the previous series. One more thing, the twist in the story of The Conjuring 3 is also easy to spot, because the complexity of the problem is still low and easy to understand. At least this intro is still quite entertaining, especially for those of you who want a tense horror genre spectacle. Overall, the high tension of this film can still be felt by the audience even though the ghost is not as scary as usual. But the storyline, shots, sound effects, and performance of some good roles can build a pretty scary atmosphere. Then, like the previous Conjuring films, there is still a satisfied aftertaste that appears after watching this film. So how was it? Have you decided to watch this movie?